Game Changers
on the BBC.
Earlier in the show, we heard from Maddie Birchall, an equestrian coach from Kent working with all levels of riders in dressage, whose work developing an accessible coaching platform online has made her a finalist in the UK Coaching Awards that take place next month. The awards shine a light on people using coaching to create positive change, empower others and build happier, healthier communities, mostly in the field of sport, but also dance too. Is dance a sport? There's a question for another day. Not sure I want to go down the breakdancing at the Olympics rabbit hole right now. But Game Changers is about inspiring people who make a difference by getting people moving and opening up doors for new opportunities. So I can definitely see why the work of my next guest has also been recognised. Natasha Britton is the founder and artistic director of Brighton-based Parable Dance. Now, she's been shortlisted for Coach Education and Development Practitioner of the Year at the UK Coaching Awards. Parable Dance deliver inclusive dance classes here in the South East and inclusive dance training, mentoring and consultancy across the world. Natasha told me how she was feeling about being nominated.
Just blown away. It's really exciting. The awards are for people all over the UK and obviously across sports and dance and different types of movement. So it's a real honour because that's a very wide pool of people, obviously, and different professions. And yeah, it feels a real honour to be shortlisted.
I think a lot of the time when people say the word coach, they think they're sort of very much sort of hidden away because we often talk about the sporting stars or the people that we see on stage in front of us. And then there's all this work going on behind the scenes that we don't often recognise.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a team of amazing dance teachers and coaches who work for me as well, who do wonderful work behind the scenes. So I see them hard at work. It feels like this is kind of a team effort rather than just for me, even though it's me that's been put forward for it.
When did you get that sense that dance was going to be something that would become your career?
I think when I was quite young, I had a loud booming voice when I was 3 and said, "I want to dance, mummy." And I went to ballet, tap and modern classes every single day, was part of festival competitions and all that stuff that you do at that age. And it was when I was doing A-level dance that I realised actually this could be a career. I had a really inspiring A-level dance teacher and she opened up the possibilities and just suggested, why don't you go and try there? Why don't you audition? Just, see where you get. And I got a place at Trinity Laban, which was incredible. And then at the time the council were giving scholarships, so I gained a scholarship to go and train, which was, unbelievable.
Did you come from a family of dancers? I was talking to an equestrian coach and I just wrongly presumed that she must have grown up in a horsey family, and she said no, this was completely new. Did you have a family who knew about the dance world?
No, not at all. A very musical family, but not dance, no. So it was a new area for us to explore. And if anything, they weren't the kind of typical dance mum and dad. If anything, it was kind of the opposite way. They were like, "Oh, do we have to drag you again?"
Yeah, because it's quite a lot of work, isn't it, when you've got a child who is really passionate about whatever it is they do, be it dance or sport, athletics. It's a big commitment, isn't it?
Yeah, it was huge. I mean, I was, by the time I was in my teens, I was dancing every evening, every weekend. It was all consuming. So yeah, that meant that obviously the whole family were on board with that and coming to multiple shows throughout my life. They're always cheering me on. So.
And you ended up at full-time dance college. Mm-hmm. What led you to work with people with disabilities and specialising in inclusive dance?
I had a really inspiring A-level dance teacher, and she introduced me to a project when I was doing my A-levels where I assisted creating a show for a local special school. That was definitely the kind of first example that I had. Then when I was studying for my degree, I decided that I would write my dissertation about Canduco Dance Company, and then ended up working with Canduco as a result. Really got the bug and realised that it can be really inspiring to work with very different bodies and discover how different bodies move.
Tell me more about Canduco. They were really the sort of first of their kind in the UK in terms of what they were doing with dance.
Yeah, at that point in time especially, they were kind of the biggest company and one of the only, really. There's obviously loads more inclusive companies now out there that have been inspired by their work. But yeah, at the time they were touring around the world. So the performance company was a mixture of disabled and non-disabled dancers. And when I first started working for them, I was on their education team and teaching lessons to their youth classes.
Fast forward a few more years and you set up Parable Dance in Brighton, but it covers the southeast and in fact it's gone global.
Yeah, quite a few years. Yeah, so 25 years in, I set Parable up 6 years ago. We're based in Brighton and we kind of have two strands. So we have lots of classes locally that we run, but also going into schools and centres. And then nationally, we run different training programmes, so teaching teachers to work inclusively as well. And something that's really important to me within that is that we provide opportunities for disabled dance artists to become teachers themselves.
How much of a barrier is it for disabled dance artists to take that next step into teaching or becoming a leader themselves?
There's significant barriers. I mean, just kind of the practicalities alone of getting into studio spaces. But then obviously you've got kind of traditional training pathways. So things like the examinations that everyone takes in ballet and modern dance. Quite often they're really restrictive because there's a certain way that you have to perform a movement. And if your body's different or you move differently, then that could be a barrier to you. So quite often the people that I'm working with haven't had the opportunity to go through those pathways and to have those training opportunities in order to get to the same level as somebody else of their age. So it's about creating those opportunities, which is something I'm really passionate about.
And are some of those opportunities created perhaps in those very first sessions that they come to in Parable Dance? Talk me through a typical session. I'm sure there's probably not a typical session, is there really?
There's not a typical session, but we make sure that everyone feels welcome. It's very much a dancer-led, so we make sure that people feel ownership over what they're doing. Lots of activities where the movement ideas come from the dancers and not just from the staff, so that it really suits everybody's bodies. And I think we try to set up right from the outset that people feel that they are Parable. And so any opportunities kind of beyond that don't feel like these huge leaps. They feel, they're supported along the way.
How do you make it fun and not scary? I know for me, having returned to dance after a break for about 20 years, and now I love going to dance classes, but that first moment that I walked through the door into a dance studio, that first moment that I put my hand on the bar, I thought, oh heck, what am I doing? I don't really belong here. I feel like I belong now, but how do you kind of help sort of smooth that journey and make people feel safe and welcome?
I think, to be honest, that's probably the most important aspect of what we do, is making people feel safe and welcome. And lots of what we put in place before someone's even stepped in a studio is really key. So social stories, especially for younger dancers, where we send a document that's got pictures of who they're going to meet, what the building looks like, where the toilets are. If they want to, they can come and meet one of our members of staff and be shown around the building first, so they kind of have a softer introduction. People come and visit sessions and have a watch first, or come and speak to the dancers after a class, so that there's always kind of an ease in, rather than having to walk into this big scary room and have high expectations. And all of our staff and dancers are all really friendly, really open to welcoming new people. And one of the things that we really support our dancers to do is to make sure that they are part of the team too, so that if somebody new comes, they might be welcomed by their peers as well as the team.
And what difference can you see it making when people start to enjoy themselves? They start to move their bodies perhaps in a way that they didn't think that they could do.
It's got so many benefits. So obviously confidence, it can help communication. I see massive improvements, especially in young people who perhaps might be less verbal in their lives. Being able to express through your body can really help your communication. There's a wealth of health benefits as well. Dance is really valuable. It kind of crosses over between sports and arts in terms of being able to express yourself as well as being healthy and fit.
And when you see people progress and perhaps have the confidence to be part of a performance, or have the confidence to share their skills with other people, how does that make you feel?
Oh, that feels wonderful. And so many young people, I mean, I could tell you a million individual stories, but if I tell you the story of John. So John is a participant who comes to our classes. When he first started attending, he hadn't been to another club or activity without support from 2 members of staff at all times, and he now attends parable dance sessions on his own. He's danced on the Dome without support to a crowd going wild for him, and it's become such a significant point in his week because it's also the only time that he's made friendships. So he's welcomed into the room by his peers. So it can be a huge game changer for individuals. We definitely see some real benefits and some really amazing stories.
And this must have such an impact on you. I mean, this work is not easy to do, is it? And you're constantly looking for funding, I imagine, to keep this going.
Yeah, the funding situation is always really challenging. I spend a lot of my time writing application forms and reaching out to people. So if anyone listening wants to support us, obviously, please do reach out. We're always looking for partnerships in the local area.
Why do you keep doing what you're doing? Why do you keep pushing for more opportunities, for more training for the next generation?
Because I think it's really unfair that those opportunities don't exist already. Not only don't they exist, but there's ridiculous barriers in place for people. I know some incredibly talented dancers. So obviously we work with people who might just be doing dance just once a week, and it's a recreational thing, and they want to have friendships, have fun, maybe do a show. But I also work with lots of dancers who want to be professional teachers, performers, and they happen to have a disability, and because of that they have multiple barriers in their way. And I am just really, really passionate about trying to remove as many barriers for them as possible.
You say that you're not the voice of disabled people, but the voice alongside and in support of disabled people. How important is it for the dance industry? I don't know whether industry is the right word, but for dance to have advocates from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life?
It's incredibly important, and I think sadly lots of places in the past have had kind of a tick box exercise in terms of access. What I think is wonderful, and I'm really seeing a change, is that organisations are opening up to actual change, and things like recruitment of inclusive board members, so that decisions are made higher up. Those kinds of changes are the really key ones, because we need to have the voices of disabled people alongside or leading organisations.
Natasha Britton, the founder and artistic director of Brighton-based Parable Dance. She's one of the finalists at the UK Coaching Awards 2025. Good luck to all on the shortlist who are taking part in the ceremony next month.